Hello, this is Nevada, and welcome to another video. Today we are doing another story. I wouldn't say short story because, well, we're in part 3 of the Trial of the Three Gems, which is a story that features 3 YouTubers, NettyPlays, Solidarity, and IntheLittleWood, also known as Netty, Jimmy, and Martin. And if you haven't seen the other 2 videos, you probably should do so. And yeah, because there are things that were talked about in there that will be looked on from here. And yeah, I don't want you getting confused or lost. So, pause this video, watch the other 2, and then come back. Easy as that. Why don't we get started? Jimmy. They made it to the library just half an hour after it had opened for the morning, and when the 2 of them walked into the small building, the only person there was the librarian, who was sitting in her desk, rifling through papers as she turned on an old-style computer. Jimmy and Martin looked around the cozy library. The walls were covered from floor to ceiling with books. There were chairs and desks scattered all around the place, nice and tidy as they weaved through the front desk. "How may I help you 2?" she asked tiredly, the librarian, as if she'd rather be in bed than working in the early hours of the morning. "We were wondering if you had any books on about, portals?" Jimmy asked slowly, not sure what to say. "Like, how to use them?" She said thoughtfully. "I think you'll find those in the back. They haven't been checked out in a while, so I'm not sure if they're even still there." "Thanks, ma'am," Jimmy said cheerfully, as he waltzed toward the back of the library with Martin at his heels. "That seems strange," Martin replied thoughtfully, as he made it to the back of the library and started looking for any books that referred to portals. "What seems strange?" Jimmy asked. "The look on her face when you mentioned portals. Didn't you see it?" Martin asked. "I did, but I guess it might be only because she hadn't heard someone ask in a while," Jimmy said with a shrug. "We could just be writing a story about portals for all she knows." "I don't know," Martin said quietly. "So, we need to be careful. We don't know if whoever took Nettie had any allies here." "Are you really going to go that deep into it?" Jimmy asked curiously. "It's not a long shot," Martin shrugged. "I just want to be careful, in case he does find out we're coming, and that puts her in even more danger." Jimmy nodded, understanding what Martin was saying. "We'll be careful." Martin managed to smile before they froze at the sound of footsteps. They turned to see the librarian walking towards them, a small pamphlet in her hands. "If I may be of any help, I think this will be of some use to you," she said quietly, handing Martin the pamphlet with a wink. "Thanks, ma'am," Jimmy said, sounding cheerful, as Martin eyed him suspiciously. "Just do what it says. There's a back room if you need to do it in secret," she replied quietly. She muttered something under her breath as she walked away, something Jimmy didn't quite hear. "Why don't you open it and see what's inside?" Jimmy asked Martin. "You sure it isn't a trap?" Martin asked nervously. "She seemed nice enough," Jimmy shrugged. "She didn't have to do that." "No, she didn't." "Why did she?" Martin asked, puzzled. "Well, let's see what it says and decide whether or not we should try it," Jimmy replied. "All right," Martin sighed as he gestured for Jimmy to follow. Going over to the back, where there was a small desk and chair, perfect for any secret business they were doing. "Honestly, it feels like a spy movie or something right now," Jimmy said with amusement. "How do you reckon that?" Martin asked. "All the secrets, not telling anyone, hiding behind closed doors. Just feels like a mystery novel," Jimmy wondered. Martin chuckled. "Hopefully this one doesn't end so horribly." "Right," Jimmy nodded as Martin unfolded the pamphlet. and laid it down so they could read it. Seems to me like a spell or something, Martin noted. We need to read it out loud, together, and at the same time. Seems legit, right? It does mention another world, Jimmy replied. Yeah, Martin nodded with a sigh. If this works, then we'll be one step closer to Nettie. And if not, Jimmy asked, we may be walking right into a trap. Martin said pondering. I'm ready if you are, Jimmy said it as bravely as he could. All right, then. Follow my lead. Follow my lead, Martin replied as they read the spell together, not noticing anything happening at first, until they finished the final line, before a white light swirled around them, engulfing them before they could say a word, a voice echoing through their minds. Are you hearing this too? Jimmy asked, unable to see his friend through the blinding light. Shh! Quiet and listen, Martin told him, answering his question in the most subtle of ways. There were three, a connection stronger than it might seem. But when divided, must come together to face the dangers that lurk without and within. There will be risks, there will be trials, but the three will prevail at one final cost. Only then will they be able to return home, if all is not lost. Is that what I think it is? Jimmy asked as soon as the voice had stopped speaking. It's pretty out there, though, but I think you're right, Martin said quietly. But before they could do anything more, the light vanished, and they found themselves falling onto a meadow of soft green grass. Yeah, green grass. Jimmy stood up and looked around at his surroundings, amazed at what he saw. It looked to me like that we made it. But where exactly are we? Martin asked. Suddenly, Jimmy noticed something that he hadn't before. Round Martin's neck was a forest green emerald, glowing brightly. Where did you get that from? Jimmy asked, pointing. Where did you get yours from? Martin asked, arching another eyebrow. Jimmy looked down. I forgot to change that when editing, holding up a similar necklace with a bright golden opal in its center. It didn't seem any as shiny or bright, but it did sparkle slightly. I don't know. Something really strange is going on, Martin pondered, and we need to figure it out fast if we have any chance of helping Nettie. Do you think she's here? Jimmy asked. She's here. Can't you feel it? Martin asked, fidgeting with his emerald thoughtfully. Jimmy looked down at his opal, finally looking down, suddenly understanding what Martin was saying, or getting. I think you're right. The prophecy has something to do with it, Jimmy replied excitedly. Then his tone lessened. Do we really have to stop whatever evil is corrupting this land? I don't think we have much of a choice, really, Martin said as he shook his head, looking around before pointing in the direction. I think we need to go this way. Lead the way, then. Yet I have no idea how these things work, Jimmy said. Neither do I, but I can feel something, Jimmy. Can't explain what it is, but I know she's here, Martin replied. Jimmy nodded. I believe you, Martin. You're not crazy. Martin grinned. Thanks. Now, come on. There's not much time. So they did. They didn't look back at where they came, only forward to the hopes of finding Nettie and rescuing her from whatever danger she was facing before it was too late. And we're continuing with Martin. Martin and Jimmy walked through the meadow, past a forest of trees and flowers, as the scent of dandelions, tulips, poppies, lilacs, and other varieties wafted over to them. It was a sweet scent, but Martin wasn't paying attention to that. He was focused on what he and his friend needed to do right then and there. They were getting closer and closer to helping their friend with every step that they took. So what kind of thing could the prophecy have meant? Jimmy said, finally breaking the silence. What do you mean? Martin asked him curiously, relieved to be talking about anything, even if it was something he didn't quite fully understand. The emerald gem that was strung around his neck felt warm as he continued along. the feeling of anticipation and hope filling him. He knew she was close, even if he couldn't see any sign of it yet. The danger was out and within, only being able to stop it was a cost? Jimmy asked. How bad can a threat like that be? Not good, that's for sure, Moran replied. Bad enough to try and separate us from our friend. But if we don't stop it, then we can't go home, Jimmy said thoughtfully. I just don't know how bad it can be, especially since I don't see anything bad. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it isn't there, Martin told him simply, glancing in his direction curiously. I'm ready for the worst. Are you? I don't know, Jimmy said. We don't even have a way to defend ourselves. How is it going to stop whoever is keeping our friend prisoner? Martin continued walking quietly, thinking to himself as he fingered the emerald gem, its green glow catching his eye. How had these things appear out of thin air? Where had they come from? What purpose did they have? Maybe it has something to do with these, Martin said thoughtfully, and gestured to the gem. Jimmy looked at him with puzzlement. So, we just throw the gems at our enemies and expect them to cower fear. Martin chuckled. As nice as that would be, no. I don't think it works like that. Then how exactly does it work? Jimmy asked. Martin shrugged and shook his head, not really sure himself of the answer. They continued walking until they suddenly heard something in the trees. Martin froze and looked over to where he'd heard the sound, half hoping he would see Nettie walking through. Yeah. Instead, a much older man walked out of the forest in their direction. He was hunched over, holding a firm grip on a crooked cane as his piercing ice blue eyes eyed them. Round his neck was an ocean blue sapphire gem. Why, hello there. Who are you? Jimmy asked, surprised to see the man. Just a passerby, but it appears to me that you were near here, the man said, his voice strained with every word he spoke. How do you know that? Martin asked suspiciously. He didn't want to be so untrustful, but he didn't have anyone else besides his friends that he could trust. This man could possibly be working on whatever side Nettie's captor was. I overheard you two talking about that prophecy, the man said with a weak smile. Seems to me that it's time. Time? For what? Jimmy asked. I think you know, my boy, the man said with a chuckle. You don't understand the potential you both have with those gems you have around your necks. Here, let me show you. Martin watched in amazement as the man swiftly and gently moved his hand. The sapphire gem, glowing as the wind picked up and lifted some flower petals into the air, swirling a few times before floating back down. Whoa, how'd you do that? Jimmy asked in amazement. You can do whatever you put your mind to, within your gem's limits, that is, the man replied simply. The darker the gem, the more power it possesses. You will learn your strengths and weaknesses soon enough. After all, I'm sure you both need to get going. But can't you teach us a few moves or something? Jimmy asked curiously. The man shook his head. Just listen to what your heart is telling you to do. You can defend, offend, and protect, but only in your own way. I cannot teach you. I can only offer advice and help strengthen your gem's abilities. I'm not sure how helpful that advice is, really, Martin replied slowly. The man smiled brightly. You'll know what to do when the time comes. The gem will only follow your lead. Thank you, Jimmy said. I think it makes a little more sense now. A little can go a long way, the man said simply. Now, you must go. Time is running short. I think we know that, Martin replied. But we didn't need it, I suppose. It was necessary. You'll see, the man said with a casual wink, before walking away, back into the forest until disappearing completely before the two of them could do anything. Well, that was interesting, Jimmy replied. So, how close are we? Martin shrugged. looking back to where the man had come, and touched his gem again. He closed his eyes and painted a picture in his mind of what he wanted. He imagined his friend, not sure what he would find, but the image soon changed as he envisioned something else, something that sent chills up and down his spine. "I know where she is," he said. "How?" Jimmy asked. "The gem is showing us the way. Both of ours are. They're connected to us, and we're connected to our friends. So that means we'll be able to find Nettie if we follow them," Martin explained. Jimmy's eyes widened and nodded. "Did you see something?" "Nothing good. We don't have much time," Martin replied simply. "Then what are we waiting for?" Jimmy asked, as he broke into a run. "There was a random direction. Let's go!" "You're going the wrong way." "You need to think about her, imagine her in your mind, and want to go to her." Jimmy stopped and nodded, doing so before opening his eyes again, and smiled. "Now we can go." "Yep. Looks like we have not much of a choice but to," Martin said with a smile, as the both of them ran towards where they knew, for certain, was where their friend was being kept. They were so close! They couldn't give up now. They wouldn't. Not until they got her back. Nettie. Okay. Nettie sat alone in her cell, in near complete darkness. The lanterns had dimmed even more, losing their light as she sat there. A part of her was relieved that the man hadn't been waiting for her when she woke up. But she also knew he wouldn't be far. It would come if she even thought of anything that might be suspicious. She shook her head as she sat against the wall, the cold, hard floor very dusty and uncomfortable. It seemed as if it hadn't been used for a long time, even though she knew it probably had, to whoever the man's other victims were. But she never would submit to him. She never wanted to see what that man was really capable of. Just seeing that dark purple, almost black gem around his neck sent shivers up and down her spine. She hated how it seeped with power, how he had demanded her submission, and punished her when she had refused. She was so sure back then that the man would be stopped, but now she wasn't so sure. If her friends were coming, and they couldn't stop the man, she didn't want to finish that thought. She closed her eyes as she laid her head against the wall, looking up at the dark ceiling. I don't know how she's doing that with her eyes closed. The cobwebs were strong on the corners. The spiders who lived on them seemed to be leaving her alone, which was good. She didn't really want to deal with them anyway. She let out a sigh, not sure what random things she could think of, trying to trick the man and assuring him that she wasn't trying to think of a way to get out. But no matter how hard she saw it, she could still hear his taunting voice in her head. There seemed to be no escape, no way to get out of this mess. She was alone, forced to be a prisoner until she submitted to her captor. She didn't want to, but what if it meant life or death? What would she choose if that was the case? What if the man threatened one of her friends? She never wanted to submit to him, but she was afraid of what he might do to get her to do what he wanted her to do. Suddenly, she heard a sound over by the door. She opened her eyes and looked over, stumbling to her feet as she dreaded the possibility of the man being out there. But wouldn't he just appear all of a sudden? He couldn't seem to be bothered to use the door. Had he heard her thoughts? Did he see her fear in her mind? Was he going to feed off them? Dwell on them? Try and take everything from her until she had nothing left to lose? She didn't know. But she was too scared to call out. Too scared to know what was coming through the door. She heard the door slowly creak open, someone shoving it open as they did so. Her voice caught in her throat as she saw who it was. Who they were. Martin and Jimmy had finally come to help her. Alas, it was another illusion. It's a trap. False hope. Nettie! Martin called with relief as he ran over to her cell. Are you okay? He didn't hurt you, did he? She swallowed, unsure of what to say. A part of her wanted to reach out through the bars and hug her friends, but She wasn't sure if they were her friends. Are you sure this isn't a trap? She asked quietly. Are you kidding? Of course not, Jimmy said excitedly. We're really here, and we came to get you out. Tell me something only we would know, she said, preparing to disguise her surprise if it came down to it. Yes, she's smart. She couldn't let the man figure this out. Again, wouldn't he be here by now if it was the real thing? Or even fake? Martin and Jimmy eyed each other for a moment before Martin nodded, approaching the bars as he spoke quietly, with words only she could hear. For a moment, she couldn't believe it. This was really happening. Her friends were finally here to help her. Suddenly, she noticed that they were wearing something around their necks. An opal on Jimmy's and emerald on Martin's. Where did you get those from? She asked. We got them when we came here, Jimmy said. Why don't you have yours? Why don't you have one? I think he might know the answer to that, she said quietly. Please get me out of here before he figures it out. We came here pretty easily, Jimmy said. He's probably not here. He can still hear my thoughts, she said with a gulp. Can't hide it for long. Martin and Jimmy nodded, serious expressions on their faces as they told her to step back. She watched in amazement as they lifted their hands and the iron bars broke, bending in two as they clattered to the ground. She was free. She didn't have to be cooped up in this awful place anymore. Once they were done, she ran over to hug them, tears filling her eyes as she felt them return their embrace. Her embrace, whatever. It was then that she realized that they were there. The pickaxe had disappeared after she had touched it. Her friends had not. She could finally get out of here. Hey, Martin said quietly, when she finally pulled away. How about we get out of here? Before she could respond, she felt the temperature in the room drop 5 degrees, and she took a sharp breath, looking up to see the man had appeared right behind them. Fear on her face signaled to the others something was wrong. The 3 of you aren't going anywhere, the man said with a firm tone. You should have known better, Nettie. And unfortunately for you, I'm going to have to make sure you can't escape. Why do you want her so badly? Jimmy demanded, anger sparkling in his eyes. Because she's like me. Powerful, strong, and doesn't deserve the likes of you, the man sneered. When I first saw her, I knew she would be the answer we needed to complete my overall plan. And you two won't stop me. Nettie screamed as dark shadows arose from all around them, falling to her knees when the shriek of pain returned into her mind. This time, far worse than she could have imagined. She screamed again, unable to see what was going on. Tears blurred her vision. Nettie! Jimmy cried as she heard him fall next to her, arms wrapping around her as she sobbed in pain. What's going on? What are you doing to her? Punishing her for disobeying my order to stay put, the man said, covertly with a laugh. She sobbed again, unable to speak as Jimmy yelled at Martin to do something. But she couldn't register what was being said. There was too much pain, too much fuzzy numbness, too much she didn't understand. Hang on, Jimmy's voice said calmly in her ear, muffled by the shrieks of pain piercing her mind. Hey, stop, please, she whimpered, better for wanting her to pull away, but unable to. How? Yes. Can you fight it? Alone, she said, groaning as another wave hit her. She could hear explosions and see flashes of green light around her, but she didn't know what to do. She was frightened, pain, and dizzy. Let me help, Jimmy said to her quietly. Let me help. She swallowed as she struggled to push the shrieks back, the taunting voice in her head trying to remind her that she couldn't. Please, I can't. Suddenly a chill filled her as she gasped in fear, shadow wrapping around her, yanking her at her as it tried to pull her away. Jimmy shouted something and the grip was gone. He pulled her tighter, and the room instantly grew warmer. I'm here, he whispered softly in her ear. He can't hurt you now. We won't let him. He is hurting me, she said weakly. But even as she said it, she could feel the pain weaning. What was Jimmy doing to her to cause this? Whatever it was certainly helping. You can fight it now, Jimmy told her. I know you can. How? She asked, finally opening her eyes again to look up at Jimmy. Surrounding them was a golden half sphere, which was blocking out the dark shadows that seemed to be wanting to get in. She could see Martin battling the man with what seemed to be green light. It surprised her. Only you know the answer to that, Jimmy said with a amused smile. How is that supposed to help me? She snapped, which made his smile widen. It helped us, the young man said with a nod, as she finally got the strength to pull away from him. She was still under the protection of the spear, which seemed to also be blocking the shriek's pain. What about the man's thoughts? Okay, she said with a nod, as she closed her eyes, trying to imagine the shield surrounding her mind, blocking her from whatever might come in. Try to come in. She tried to make it as strong as possible, not leaving a single crack for something to get through. I'm ready. You sure? He asked with uncertainty. Yes, I'm sure, she said as she opened her eyes, holding on to his hand as she stood up and Jimmy let down his shield. She braced for impact, braced for pain. Seeing the surprise in the man's face as he watched her rise to her feet was enough for her to know that it had worked. Nettie, look! Jimmy said in amazement. She looked down to see a bright glow around her neck as a purple amethyst gem was mysteriously around her neck. She was surprised, but touched. She had finally gotten what the man had apparently been trying to keep away from her. I'm not sure what to say, she said with amazement. Purple may not be your favorite color, but it definitely suits you, Jimmy said, with a smug grin on his face. Yeah, I guess you might be right, she replied quietly, looking up to face the man who had tried to break her, to force her to submit to him. But she wouldn't. Not with her friends by her side. I'm impressed you managed to overcome me, the man said with a cold smile. But that doesn't mean I don't have any other tricks up my sleeves. Nettie, Jimmy, look out! Martin hollered out with a warning, and Nettie looked up in horror as the shadows dived towards them, feeling their coldness wrap around them, feeling him trying to pull them apart. That's not happening, Jimmy told her, holding tighter as his shield pushed the shadows away. But I can't hold them for long. She nodded. So what should we do? We can't face him forever. We need to get out of here. I'm not sure how we can, Jimmy said as he strained to keep the shield up. With him in the way? She nodded, trying to think of what they could do. Suddenly, she had an idea that sprung up from what the man had said. She would like him, which meant she probably had similar powers. He had formed in her mind. Martin, come here, she called out. I have an idea. Wow, that was quick, she said, out of her breath. About time, Martin added, as he went over to their side, as he looked over at the man, warily. Nettie took his hand and squeezed it. He squeezed it in return. Do you trust me? She asked. Yeah, Martin nodded. What do you need us to do? Tell me a place where we can go. Describe it if you can, she replied. I have a better idea, Martin said with a smile, as he closed his eyes. Suddenly, Nettie was starting to see an image in her mind of a place full of colors and flowers. It's beautiful, and it would do the trick. But she heard another thought in her mind as she thought of the teleporting. You may try to run and hide from me, but I remind you, you will be mine. Nettie, hurry! Jimmy said nervously, but as soon as he said it, it clicked. She gasped as they zapped into the light, and out onto a green meadow, stumbling before Martin caught her. I got you, Martin assured her, embracing her into a hug. Is he gone? She asked. He didn't follow. For now, we're safe, Martin replied quietly. He did it. She nodded, and its exhaustion filled her. Took a lot out of me. How did he do that? Practice, I assume, she replied. But you should rest, Nettie. You need it. But what about, she asked. We'll keep watch, Martin promised, as he helped her down onto the grass. You trust us, don't you? Of course, she replied. Then we'll make sure he can't get to you, he promised. We won't be far. Okay, she said quietly. She slowly began to drift off, feeling a kiss on her forehead before she didn't remember anything more. But it felt good, peaceful, reassuring, perfect. She was safe. Finally free of that man who had tried to hurt her, tried to control her, but he had no power over her now. She was stronger, with her friends by her side. Stronger knowing she wasn't alone. She'd done it, thanks to them. Soon, they'd stop that man as well, keeping him from trying to use her. That was her hope, at least. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end that episode there. But the next part will be out as soon as possible, I promise. And that is a promise I plan to keep. And yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. And be sure to like the video and subscribe. And hit the bell so you know when the next part comes out. Because there will be a part 4. And yeah, hopefully it'll be the final part. And yeah. Thank you guys so much for watching. And I'll catch you all next time. Bye!